Opening night for the 2025-2026 NBA season was a whirlwind, so let's go through it together. The first game we had was the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Houston Rockets. And of course, there's some mini storylines in this. Kevin Durant returning home for them having their ring night following their 2025 championship, and looking at their success last season and how SGA was the MVP, and they're trying to repeat and say we're here to stay. A lot of storylines, a lot of things to be excited about in this game, and this game did not disappoint. If you are not able to watch this game, this is something that I would suggest you going back tomorrow and trying to rewatch if you can, or whenever you can. It was a masterclass. So some important things about this game going back and forth. I'll start with the Rockets side of this. The Rockets were struggling with the Oklahoma City Thunder's ball pressure, and it's hard to really separate, is this a ball handling problem and the Rockets really need a point guard, or is this just the Thunder, such an elite team, they make it look so obvious that they need a point guard, and they can actually hang with the more middle of the pack teams. But it's very obvious the Rockets are in win now mode, so regardless of how they envision this season going, they're going to need a point guard, because there's so many limitations in the half court offense when you don't have a true point guard, and we saw them here tonight. Amin Thompson, Reed Shepherd, Alperen Sengun, they all had their own turns at the point guard position, and the Rockets kind of did this free-flowing offense where whoever got the board could just get it and go, and kind of taking that mentality. But at the end of the day, there were no table setters. It's a game of play finishers but not playmakers, and that's kind of the big distinction, and I feel like ultimately why they lost. And when you go down to the game of numbers and you're in crunch time, the Thunder had Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and the Houston Rockets didn't have that guy. They didn't have a closing ball handler. And that's not even about saying they need to take the last shot, but they need somebody who can get KD the ball in his spot so he can go do what he does and things of that nature. Because again, it's a lot of play finishers, but it just wasn't that many playmakers. And I think that's the need that the Rockets have. Talking about this a little bit more, I really liked what I saw of the double big matchup, specifically against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Of course, the Thunder started with Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren, who was a manimal on his own, so I'll talk about him a little bit later. But they really held their own as far as the bigs versus the bigs matchup. I love it. Of course, Alperen Sengun, 37, 11, and 9. Can't say enough about it. He looked like the best player on this team, and he played next to Kevin Durant. I think that says a lot. So something else that was also readily apparent was the shooting, or the lack of shooting, for Houston. Amin Thompson was willing to shoot, and that's something that's good. That's one of the positive strides, is one, getting over the nerves of shooting wide open shots, and when teams leave you open, not overthinking it and going for it. That's something the Houston Rockets are going to have to look at. I know one of their big free agent signings was, of course, Dorian Finney-Smith. He's out with this ankle injury. He'll help with their perimeter shooting, but it was a really obvious gap in shooting, and they were getting great looks. Josh Okogie was getting wide open threes. Reed Shepherd took several open threes. Amin Thompson took a bunch of open threes. I'm trying to think. Jabari Smith Jr., he shot the ball tonight. I think they just need a little bit more consistent perimeter shooting. Of course, I like Jabari Smith Jr., I like Kevin Durant, I like they have capable shooters. It's more about having that consistency and having guys to get the ball to them. Reed Shepherd came in as probably the only true point guard that's playable on this roster, and he was a scoring guard. He was in that mentality where he wanted to get shots up, he wanted to be aggressive and putting the ball in the basket, and that's just not what the team needed. And of course, he's a young guy finding his footing. This isn't a fault of his own, but it's just clear what the Rockets need, and they really just need that playmaking guard who can slow it down and get everybody the ball in the spots that they needed. One thing I did not like so much was just their pace at times, and it feels like the Thunder was really just running them versus they were running with the Thunder. It felt like they were playing a step behind, and they were trying to play catch up as far as in the transition. And part of that's playing two bigs. You're playing two traditional centers. You have a 6'10", 6'11" Kevin Durant at shooting guard. You're a giant lineup. You're not made to go and getting these sprinting matches and trying to outrun the opposing team. So that's something that they're looking at long term with this roster. That's something they're going to look at. They're going to be a track team if they're going to stay this big, because you're going to have to be able to move. I know there was one possession down the stretch in the fourth quarter. Shai just blew by Steven Adams in a pick and roll, and it wasn't because Steven Adams couldn't defend him. it's because the man was tired. He simply just could not move his feet. He was exhausted, and Shea just got right by him. Those are the kind of things that you're going to have to look at when you're looking at this team going forward. Is how's that conditioning look? Are they going to keep this pace up long term, or is this more of they were just trying to match the OKC Thunder speed and trying to stay in their physicality and stay within there? But I don't have any shortness of positive words for what I saw out of Şengün tonight. I saw really good things out of Jabari Smith Jr. Other than that, praise up to Amin Thompson. Hopefully his leg injury is not severe at this point. I don't know anything besides he didn't finish the game, so we're going to see what happens there. But yeah, it was a really, really good game. It was very interesting to see Kevin Durant and Jabari Smith Jr. try to call a timeout at the end of the fourth quarter when they didn't have a timeout, and the referees just essentially said, it doesn't matter because we didn't hear it. That was really interesting. They lost in double overtime to what I believe to be the best team in the NBA. So this is not by any shortness. This isn't in any way saying that I think the Rockets are a bad team or they're not going anywhere. But it's very clear they have a need to go to that real next level as far as solidifying their ability as a championship contender. But they have all the pieces. They got good juice. I really like some of the half court sets we saw, specifically isolating Alperen Şengün against smaller matchups whenever he could. The OKC Thunder responded very well. Whenever Alperen Şengün had Alex Caruso on the block, the Thunder were great about swarming, trapping, and using their athleticism, their youth, and flying around the court to recover. Based off of his passes, and just really trying to make Alperen Şengün's life hard. But the man hit 5 threes tonight. The man hit 5 threes. Maybe did he hit? I don't think he hit another one. I know he hit 5. I don't know if he hit 6. But he was shooting that ball amazing. That's something that's really positive for the Rockets going forward, and that's something that's going to really dictate how far they can go. Because if you're going with a double center lineup, you're really going to need one of them to be able to shoot. And barring Steven Adams taking that, year 13 jump, you're going to need that from Alperen Şengün. So that was really exciting to see. And now for the Oklahoma City Thunder. From start to finish, this looked like the championship team we saw just 5 months ago. They looked very serious. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had a really slow start. He ended up getting better and better as the game went on, and that's about on par for what we expect at a SGA at this point. I love the physicality. I love the defensive schemes. I love how the players competed and they're getting up under the Houston Rockets players. I love how they kind of acknowledge, Amin Thompson's really the only guard-like player over there. Like, they have guys who can make plays, but Amin's really their only playmaker per se, and they got up under him. They said, hey, we're going to pressure whoever brings up the ball up the court because it's changing on every possession. And I know there were several times where the Rockets are getting into their offensive set with 12 seconds on the clock because Jabari Smith Jr. just got hounded up the full court by Aaron Wiggins, and it's just a random play. And those are the type of, around the edges plays that wins you games, they win you seasons, and they win you championships. And, I just can't say enough about Chet's start. I think he scored the first 7, but he had 13 in the first quarter. He looked really good. He looked really aggressive. The only thing I had for the Oklahoma City Thunder and kind of my fears about them, my only fear about them repeating, and my kind of cautious optimism about how they look this season is how aggressive is Chet Holmgren going to be, and where they go from here. And this is also a game we're talking about where Jalen Williams didn't play, and J-Dub, he did not play tonight. And before I get off of this topic, I just want to give a shout out to AJ Mitchell. That man was hooping, 16 points in 15 minutes. He looked really comfortable as a catch and shoot guy, and then he had that big 4-point play. Was that the end of the second half, or was that? I forget which part of the game. I think it was going to the second. Yeah, I think it was going into halftime where he hit the big clutch shot. I think the Rockets were down like 7 at that point, and then he gets a 4-point play before they go into halftime. Really good stuff, though. He was a big-time player. I think he could have played more, honestly, tonight. But OKC is just such a stacked team. It's just hard to find guard minutes. But, yeah, big shout out to A.J. Mitchell. Really good game. And shout out to Oklahoma City Thunder for the first of many this season. And on to the second game of opening night. We have the Golden State Warriors versus the Los Angeles Lakers. This game was a lot less interesting than the first one, but it still was a fairly good game nonetheless. One of the more encouraging things that we saw here was that Stephen Curry is still Stephen Curry. And I don't know if there was any severe doubt that he would be that good, but with his age, with his injury history, him being a small guard, it's really hard to predict when we'll see a decline, but and a guy like Stephen Curry, we just may never. He might just retire on top. But he looked very, very good tonight. But part of that could be the Los Angeles Lakers' perimeter defense looks really rough. But I'll talk about that whole can of worms in a minute. Draymond Green's doing Draymond Green things. He's getting in opponents' heads. He's out there being physical. He's getting that secondary playmaking. I think Stephen Curry got 2 wide open layups off of Draymond Green fees just because he has that great court vision and they have that synchronization where they're just locked in mentally and they just know what the other person's thinking, which is really great stuff to witness in real time. Really great stuff. Jimmy Butler was really aggressive. The man had 10 free throws in the first half. I'm speaking a lot in current tense. That's because I'm recording this during the Lakers-Warriors game. It's the second half. I have the game right here to my right. The game is getting out of hand. It's getting ugly. It's a 15-point game. I'm concerned this might be it. But I'm still seeing encouraging things. I'm still seeing really good things specifically from the Warriors. I really like Al Horford's fitness system. I'm happy they're not making him a full-time starter. Tonight, that worked very well against a team with DeAndre Ayton at the starting center position, but I am a little concerned how that looks versus, a Clippers team or versus, of course, the Nuggets, but there's no Jokic stopper. But I'm really just interested to see how that looks against, the better centers in the league. Of course, no shot at DeAndre Ayton here, but just looking at those guys and how that looks when they have some more, dominating force within that center position, and they can still survive with this small ball. Because I really like how it looks. I like the synergy. If Jonathan Kuminga, stays shooting like he's Rashard Lewis, then listen, Steph might be getting 5. All right, Steph might be getting number 5 if he keeps shooting like this. Buddy Hield chipped in. At this point in time, Brandon Podziemski is having a pretty quiet night, but honestly, Brandon Podziemski's more here for his defense here tonight, I would say, and he's doing a really good job getting up under guys. Austin Reeves has had a pretty rough night. He's making good decisions, but he's just missing shots, and I think part of that is Brandon Podziemski, so hats off to him. And one big thing about Jimmy Butler, too, is I love him hunting the smaller matchup with Gabe Vincent. Part of that 10 free throw attempts is because they are switching all actions, and Jimmy Butler's feasting when he gets the smaller player on him. So that's really good to see, an aggressive Jimmy Butler. My biggest concern with taking this Warriors team seriously is who is Jimmy Butler at this point. And if Jimmy Butler is this guy on a semi-consistent basis, yeah, this team might be higher than I originally projected. Then it's the Los Angeles Lakers. Luka Doncic is role-playing as 2018 LeBron right now. He has no help. Pray for my man. But on a serious note, Reeves, like I said, he's been playing well as a basketball player. He's just not finishing his plays tonight. It's just a rough shooting night for him. The Warriors have played him very good defensively, and it definitely has contributed to it. But I do expect him to bounce back. He still looks like himself. He's just not making the shots he normally does. As far as the rest of the team, I really like Marcus Smart's game tonight. He has 5 fouls. He probably fouled out the game by this point. He was really aggressive. He was getting up under defenders. He was being the Lakers' version of Draymond Green. Something I think the Lakers desperately need. I feel like they need that physicality, and they need a guy to go in there and not be afraid to get up under somebody. Jared Vanderbilt has been that guy previously, but I think Marcus Smart has some more offensive utility that kind of allows you to play with him a little bit more than more than Jared Vanderbilt. Too much. It reminded me of the 2020 Rockets, where it was James Harden and Russell Westbrook, and it was like James Harden would go cook this quarter, and then Russell Westbrook would cook this quarter. It wasn't a lot of cohesion. I'm still just not seeing that out of Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic. Something they're going to need if they want any real shot at winning a championship is they need to be able to play off of each other. And it feels like a lot of Austin Reeves doing cardio when Luka Doncic cooks, and then it's like Luka Doncic has to be on the bench for Austin Reeves to go cook, and it's just it makes sense. Like when Luka's on the floor, you want the ball in his hands, you want him controlling everything, but I feel like you should have some better synergy between the two. It feels like you're putting two puzzle pieces that don't quite fit together, but you're like, these are just two these puzzle pieces are just so good. We're gonna make it work and figure it out. DeAndre Ayton had a pretty rough game tonight. I was higher on him than most. I don't think he's an All NBA center, and I don't think he's about to take over the league by storm. But I do think he's a quality NBA player. I do think he's a starting center. Tonight is not making my case, unfortunately, but I still believe in him. I think it was a rough game. This is a rough matchup, honestly, with their 5-out offense and them, constantly, going small, and you have to go with Draymond on you, who's a very physical defender, one of the best post defenders in the league. He's had a rough night, and I think that's all right. I think they didn't bring him in here to be some top 5 center in the league. They brought him in here to be a competent starting center, and I think he can do that for the rest of the season. Rui Hachimura got up some threes. Jake LaRavia looked solid in the minutes I saw to him. Big shout out to Marcus Smart. He had like 5 meme-worthy moments this game. It was pretty good, and then, he was talking back and forth with Steph, and Steph hit a 3, and then he started doing some other stuff, and then Buddy Hield hit a 3, and then now Steph Curry's waving at people. It was a pretty good sideline story. It's a pretty good beef that was going on. Luka and Buddy Hield were beefing at one point. I don't speak Slovenian, but I think Luka says some words that aren't good for children's television shows. But that's okay, because when you're dropping 30 points near triple doubles, you can say what you want. Okay, but that's night 1 of the NBA opening night. It was a really good game to open us up, and it was a solid game to close us off. I'm looking forward to tomorrow and seeing the more that we got. If you guys are new here, I do make NBA content, and I'm looking forward to expanding to a little bit of NFL as well. So if those type of things interest you, go ahead and subscribe, leave a like, and stick around, because we're going to be going around places and doing a lot of things, so y'all should come stick around for the journey. Side note, if you made this far, this is a new setup for me. You guys let me know, how do I sound, how do I look, how's the lighting for you. You guys let me know how the video quality experience was. I'm tampering around with things every day and trying to do the best that I can with the videos here, so let me know what y'all think. Other than that, it's your boy. I'm out of here. Peace.